was promoted to full-time assistant. I just want to know what you've seen out of him as a teacher, as a recruiter, and how you've seen him mesh with the staff.
Yeah. Well, first off, it started really when Parker got here. I saw somebody who was really, really sharp, really good teacher, a problem solver, and then the last couple of years working with Matt Barnes on special teams, just seeing somebody that was a self-starter, communicated well with the players, and again, a really good teacher. So that was kind of the evaluation going into this thing. And the big thing for us was that there was continuity here with special teams. And so what we've done, and Parker's and Matt Barnes both have had a big part in this, is that we've really done I think a really good job of now taking the same terminology we use in special teams and carrying that over to offense and defense, so that when someone steps into a special teams meeting, they're hearing the same sound bites that they would hear when they're in their position meetings, and vice versa. So this carryover in all three phases, I thought that was really well done. And now as we head into the spring and we head into meetings, we'll kind of see how things go, but excited about how things are going so far.
Thanks.
Next up, Clay Hall, WSYX. Clay?
Morning, Ryan. What does Marcus Hooker's future look like, given the suspension, his second, I guess, here at Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, we're very disappointed and take what happened very, very seriously. And, we're going to let the process play out. He is suspended right now indefinitely. And, we'll kind of see, as things move forward, we'll make the decisions as we go. But want to get all the information first before we did anything.
Got it.
Next up, we'll go with Bill Rabinowitz with the Columbus Dispatch. Bill?
Hi, Ryan. Could you just kind of break down how you envision the quarterback competition to play out this spring? Obviously, you got three guys, and it's perceived to be pretty equal. Can you address that and just how you're going to try to get these guys the reps they need?
Yeah, well, we're going to try to get as equal amount of reps as we can. We're going to rotate the guys the best we can. We've kind of been through this before. We've had several guys in there, and I think we do as good of a job of anybody of making sure that guys get equal reps and compete. And that's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be a lot of reps to go around. We have a very, large roster right now. We're almost at preseason level roster. I think we're at 112 maybe right now. And so that's a big number. So we're going to be able to get a lot of reps in the spring, which is really exciting. There's a lot of times we're going to be able to get three groups going. We're 3, 4, even 5 deep at some positions right now. So the good news with that going into the spring is we're going to be able to get a lot of guys reps. If it was a normal spring where we were down at certain positions, you just wouldn't have as many reps in practice. We're expecting to get a lot of reps. So I see these guys getting a lot of reps, splitting them up as equally as possible and letting them compete. But I also think, too, the way that I look at it is you have 15 practices in the spring, and then you have preseason. And preseason, number one, is just the next practice of spring. It's just they're not two separate entities. They're all a lead up into the preseason. So, you'll know when the time is right. We'll know when the time is right, like we have in the past here. But they all have a lot of learning to do. They haven't had a lot of snaps. And to be fair, they need to kind of spend some time in this offense learning. And then as we start to get them in the game situations through the spring and through preseason, we'll have a better idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up, Tony Girdman with Buckeye Scoop. Tony?
Ryan, just a couple of housekeeping things. Have there been any players to depart the program since the winter? And are there players who will be out in the spring that you can tell us who won't be practicing? And then lastly, with vaccinations being allowed for 16 and over in Ohio starting at the end of March, do you have a plan for that? And will vaccinations be required for the team?
Certainly won't be required, but we're going to have a plan in place. All that information came out yesterday about March 29th. It was exciting for everybody. Excited that I'm available to get it real soon here. I think I'm scheduled for Friday, which is exciting. This really is a huge step for us moving forward. So we're really fired up about that. And we're going to have a great plan here for that. It's all kind of happening fast, but I know our medical people are working on it. I'm getting a bunch of texts here on how we're going to get this organized, but it is going to be available really, really soon. In terms of on the team, you kind of caught me off guard with that. I'm trying to go back and think. I don't think there's anybody who's left the program that I can think of. But 7 weeks or 8 weeks it seems like a lifetime. So I'm probably forgetting somebody, but nobody offhand that I can think of.
And then is everybody healthy? Like are you willing to tell us you can't play this spring?
Yeah, there's a pretty good list of guys that are coming off of some surgeries that will be, able to do most things throughout the spring. And there's going to be guys in limited fashion. I think for the most part, everybody will be able to do something. Now, some days may not be able to do full contact, may not be able to do team stuff, but for the most part, guys will be able to participate in some way, shape, or form.
Thank you.
Next up, Austin Ward with Letterman Row. Austin?
Ryan, I know a coach is worried about every position, and you already talked about the quarterbacks, but if you had to pick one more battle that maybe particularly interests you this spring, what position do you kind of have your eye on there?
Well, I think, there's a couple different positions, and they'll have kind of different story to them, I think, when you look at it. I think when you look at the linebackers, we lost 4 guys there. So that's going to be interesting to see in that room who steps up. And there's a lot of production in that room that needs to be accounted for. So that's going to be very, very important in the spring. I think in the back end, there's some guys there who have done some really good things. Lathan stepped up in a big way late. Proctor really flashed at times. And so there's some guys back there that have done some things, but they weren't as consistent and didn't play or didn't play as much as some of the other guys during the season. And so really want to see how that back end starts to shake out as some new faces get in there. Corner is a big position for us. And so, we have 7 coming back, which is great. But also we need to build some depth there. So there's a lot of young faces back in the back end. I think we're off to a great start in terms of what we're doing. So that'll be exciting. In the offensive line, kind of an interesting, situation there with kind of some, we lose Josh and we lose Wyatt. Those are 2 big losses inside. So that battle will be fun to watch. And then the other one that's really, to me, very, very important is at tight end. Ruck is coming back and he's going to do some great things for us. Excited about that. But losing Luke Farrell, he was probably one of the more, underappreciated guys in his time here. He did a lot of things for us. And so that second tight end in the game is going to be important for us. And finding out who that is and let that competition play out will be critical.
Next up, Dave Biddle with 24/7 Sports. Dave?
Hi, Ryan. Thanks for doing this. It's good to see you. I want to ask you about the 2 analysts that you added with Paul Rhodes on offense and Todd Fitch on defense. Paul Rhodes on defense, Todd Fitch on offense. Why did you feel like it was important to add them, and can you just explain what their roles will be for you?
Yeah, looked hard at that position, and we've for whatever reason we were kind of at those positions we're a little bit younger. So, we had Brian Hartline there, we had Corey Dennis there, we had some younger guys in there. And I felt like it may help to have a little bit more experience in those roles as we head into this season. I think every year you kind of look at it and figure out, what do you need? And these are 2 guys that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And the first thing we looked for was the fit. Todd Fitch is somebody that I've worked with before. He's got a tremendous amount of experience. He's a really good coach. I worked with him at Boston College. He's been around some great offenses. But he has the right personality for this situation. And he's going to really help us on offense. And then Paul Rhodes, while I didn't know him and have worked with him, I talked with several people that had worked with him. Chip Kelly being one, Jeff Hafley being another, Coach Wanstadt. There's a lot of guys that just couldn't say enough great things about him as a person. And then obviously his background and what he's been through and his experience is critical. And I will say the early returns on this has been a home run, like A+. Just really great feel for what we need, great feel for what a room needs on offense and defense, and also their impact on our guys. Just another guy who's been around, who can kind of put their arm around somebody and talk to them. So I'm very, very excited about those additions.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we'll go with Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Dan?
Hey, Ryan, you talked a lot about, just the reps that your guys lost last year. Just in terms of this spring, are there any ways in which you're structuring this spring differently so that guys can get maybe more reps than they normally would?
Dan, we've been spending a lot of time talking about this as a staff, and I allowed our entire staff to present to me what really each position had to get up in front of the staff and explain fundamentally and technically what they believe in and what they need this spring to get their guys, to the highest competitive level. And, I took that information back and then started to kind of put together the spring practice schedule. The first knee-jerk reaction coming off the season was we just got to start getting game reps, because I was so nervous about not playing in games. But the more I talk to our staff, we can't just jump into that. We missed a lot of fundamental work, and we have to make sure that we're fundamentally sound and our foundation is right before we just jump into those type of things. So I think it's going to be a combination of really making sure fundamentally where we need to be. But then at the same time, like we talked about, we do need to try to get some team and game reps going in those situations because, I know especially for the quarterbacks, these guys don't have any game reps, very few anyways. So it's a combination of those two things. And it is a little bit different in years past. But at the end of the day, the goal is still going to be the same.
Next up, we'll go with Nathan Baird from Cleveland.com. Nathan?
Hey, Ryan. One of these, I guess it falls into the headline of a position battle, but one of the guys that people are really intrigued by is Paris Johnson. Where at the start of the spring does he fit in? Are you looking at him right now as definitely playing one position on the offensive line over the others, or is there kind of a multi-position battle going on between him and the guys who are coming back?
Yeah, he has some position flexibility, which he's so talented. And really our tackles and guards are kind of interchangeable when you look at them. They can kind of do both, which really helps. And so he's going to probably start at guard this spring, but he could easily move to tackle quickly. And we'll try to find that right combination. But the idea always in the offensive line is how do you find the right five? You want to make sure that you have your best five linemen in the game and then go from there. And somebody like Paris who has some position flexibility is just that much more valuable.
Next up, we'll go with Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill.
Hey, Ryan. I was wondering what you make of some of the pre-draft discussion about Justin and his ability to go through progressions. It seems like, not everybody is talking negatively about him in that way, but that does seem like a common criticism of his that I'm not totally sure showed up when he was playing for you guys, but I'm just wondering what you think of that.
I don't really think much about that. I don't listen to really any of them because, when I, coached in the NFL and coached quarterbacks in the NFL, I would listen to guys speak, and then I'd have my opinions on the quarterbacks that I would study, and then I'd listen to what they say. And, some guys were really accurate. Other guys weren't even close. So I get it. They all have a job to do. But some of that stuff I don't really put much stock into. I think when you look at Justin's body of work, when you're throwing a Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and some of the guys we have, and the first read is open a lot, that's not his fault. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why we put certain plays in. And if the first read is to go to Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave or, again, we have a lot of receivers who are really good. And they're open, that's where the ball goes. And part of that is good recruiting. Some of it's good game planning, whatever. But there was a lot of times where Justin got back to 2-3, sometimes 4-5. So he has the ability to do that. He's very, very intelligent, really sharp. It doesn't take much for him to learn a play, to get it. And whatever, NFL team asks him to do something, he will learn it very, very quickly. And one thing he's going to do is he's going to make a lot of plays. And when you look back on his career here, what he did, he made a lot of plays. So, people can, this is the time of year in the NFL draft where people are going to kind of go after you a little bit and try to find your warts. That's fine. And they may find someone that's really perfect for their system and that they want to find somebody that really fits into a box. I can promise you this, Justin Fields is going to make plays in the NFL. And no matter what you do, no matter what you say, you can't put a value on that. Just his ability to make plays. And when he's out in space, with his feet, making throws down the field, those things are going to continue to happen at that level. So, again, I always think great coaching is adjusting your scheme to the personnel that you have. And some team's going to get very lucky by drafting them.
Next up, we'll go with Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan?
Hi, Coach. Nice to see you again. Hey, I have to imagine there's an awful lot of teaching that goes on this time of year. Obviously, you had some turnover in some key positions. Quarterback is certainly one of them. But I'm curious how much you enjoy this time of year, the idea of teaching technique and working on fundamentals. I know you mentioned that word a little bit ago, but how much do you truly enjoy that part of your job of this time of year? And beyond that, which players that you've had a chance to spend some time around seem particularly open to that kind of coaching?
Well, yeah, to answer your question, I love this time of year. I love the ability to learn and to teach for these young guys, to get as many reps as possible without, this big thought of, the game right around the corner and the stress of the game, where sometimes you let emotion kind of get in the way. You can just worry about teaching. And I think that's, as a coach, that's the most fun you have, and the things that you enjoy the most. It's what I enjoy the most. Some guys have had great off seasons so far. One guy that sticks out for sure, especially on defense, is Zach Harrison. I think that the work he's put in during this off season, his body's already changing, his work ethic's off the chart. He's leading, he's in front of things, and he just looks different. And hats off to him to a great off season. He just has a different look in his eye. There's several guys who are like that, but he sticks out for sure.
Next up, we'll go with Tim May with the Tim May Podcast. Tim?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Gotcha.
I just got my second COVID shot, so I'm a little shaky. Hey, Ryan, just real quick, how do you and Corey, I don't know if split up is the right word, but how do y'all handle the tutoring of the quarterbacks, especially going into the spring? And number two, are these guys, no matter how much they played, are they farther ahead than quarterbacks you ran into 8-10 years ago just because of systems maybe they're coming out of just a 7-on-7 proliferation? Just sort of what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, Corey runs the meetings, and I'm certainly a big part of that, but at the end of the day, he's coaching the quarterbacks, and I'm right there in practice with those guys, and we try to we got a lot of work to do this spring, so we try to divide and conquer. But I think offenses are much further along, and I also think that quarterbacks are further along, if that makes sense. I think that what we ask of these guys nowadays is much more than we asked 10 years ago. So I think it's all relative. But I do think there's an opportunity for young guys to come in and play a little bit earlier than maybe, like you said, 10 to 15 years ago. But I also think the landscape of college football has changed a lot. I know I've looked at things a lot different, going through my experience with Dwayne and with Justin, because you put so much work into these guys, and how many games are you actually getting out of them, in terms of on the field. Dwayne, you got 1 year. Justin, you get kind of a year and a half, whatever last year was. And so I'm excited about having somebody, for at least 2 years, possibly 3 years, because I think that is huge, when you have an experienced quarterback. Now, with that comes working through the growing pains. And that's the give and take of this whole thing. And you can't afford to stub your toe at Ohio State. I get that. But at the same time, I think that's the right philosophy, and that's what we're going to work on.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Next up, Doug Lesmerises with Cleveland.com. Doug?
Hey, Ryan. I want to follow up on Paris. So Thayer and Nick were maybe the best tackles in the Big Ten last year. Paris is a huge prospect at tackle. If you have three guys like that, is it only Paris that would work at guard, or is there a world where if those three are three of your five best offensive linemen, one of the veteran tackles could be the one who moves to guard because they're veterans and they can do anything, and Paris is at tackle? Like, as you work those three, what are all the options? Yeah,
you're right. Having flexibility too for those guys is good for them. It's healthy for their future as well. So yeah, we're going to look at all those combinations and see what gives us the best chance. But the more we can do that of teaching guys both guard and tackle, the better off we're going to be, and the more combinations that we can get into. But we're not going to just get locked into one thought process for sure. We're going to look at them all and figure out what's best. and then find the right chemistry with those guys. So no, we'll look at everything.
And in general, is it sometimes, if a guy's sliding spots, is it sometimes easier for the veteran to slide rather than the younger guy if Paris has played mostly tackle in his life?
I think it's unique to each player in each situation. I mean, I think you can make an argument for both cases. I think you just have to let it play out and see. But I could see, either things happening. We're going to start with Paris inside and see how that goes. He did some really good things for us last year, guard, even, in the short body of work he had. But he's still young, and there's still a lot to learn as an offensive lineman. Not very many guys in their first and second year have played a lot of football here in the offensive line. So that's unique, and it's a developmental position. So it's going to take time. But we'll see how it goes, and I'll have a better idea as we get through the spring.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next up, Joey Kaufman with the Columbus Dispatch. Joey.
Ryan, you mentioned won't be required to get the vaccine, but from talking to guys on the team, are most expecting or looking forward or eager to get the vaccine, or will it take convincing for guys? Just kind of curious about that dynamic.
I haven't polled the guys yet because it's all happened here in the last day or so, and we'll get a better idea, probably in the next week. I would assume that most guys would want to take it, but maybe not. It's kind of up to them. And we'll kind of leave it up to them and their families, whatever decision they make, but we're certainly going to make it available and see how it goes.
Next up, Patrick Murphy with 24/7 Sports. Patrick.
Ryan, going back to the quarterback, having been a quarterback, coached quarterbacks, when you have three young guys like this, what would be your advice to them as they really start to amp up this battle here in spring?
Yeah, I already talked to him about that. The first advice is what you can do is you can't get in a daily battle with the guy next to you. You're in a room, in a unit where you're all playing the same position, typically only one plays. So that's a unique situation in football. But I've been in those rooms my whole life. And what you find is the guys who fight it, the guys who, end up in this kind of battle with the guy next to them, and it becomes friction there. It's not good for either group or either guy. And so some of the best, most fierce battles I've been around, they become really, really close. And they have to just dive themselves into the process. They can't worry day in and day out about, am I going to get one leg up on the guy next to me or not? Certainly it's a competition, and there has to be a little bit of that. But what has to happen is you just have to get really just immersed in the process. And how do I get better every day? But also knowing that, there's a lot of guys counting on me to do my job. And I have to build a reputation of somebody that's doing things the right way. I have to create a work ethic. I have to, understand that I know the offense better than anybody else on that field. And when you have that credibility and you do things the right way, then all of a sudden guys will start to follow you, because being a leader is the number one job of a quarterback. And that's hard to do when you're young if you don't do things the right way and create that great standard. So those are kind of the things we've talked about so far.
Next up, we'll go with Stephen Means with Cleveland.com. Stephen.
Ryan, kind of two different questions here. For starters, a football question. Last year, you guys kind of got away from that six-man rotation. It was pretty much Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. And, I mean, you're pretty good, so it worked out. But now that these I guess sophomores now and also this freshman class is coming in, they're getting a normal year. Do you guys want to get back more to that six-man rotation, or is the expectation going to be it's going to be similar to what it was last year, where it's Chris and Garrett getting as many snaps as they can? But then also from a basketball standpoint, watching this team make that run last year as a football coach, I think you were at a game this year and also engaged with some stuff on social media. How exciting has it been to watch them make their run?
You didn't see my shot yesterday on social media?
Yeah. Who won the rematch too? You guys.
I love basketball, and I love March Madness, and especially this time of year. Just great memories. My birthday's on March 12th, St. Patrick's Day and March Madness. They all kind of go together, and just great memories being back home and watching basketball in this time of year. And I think Chris has done an unbelievable job this year. I think his team plays really, really hard, and almost won the Big Ten championship, played really, really well, took Illinois all the way to the end. I thought Illinois got a really good team as well. They'll probably make it really far. I'm excited to see, with the draw that they have, excited to see them. Sometimes that first game's the hardest, and once they get some momentum going, as long as they stay healthy, I think they're going to make a great run. It's been fun to watch them play this year, I think it's 3:30 on Friday or something. I'll be fired up watching them play. And going back to your question about the receivers, I think that we'll always try to play as much depth as we can. And the more guys that earn the opportunity to play more, they'll be in the game. And last year, again, as you look back on last year, it was a little funky with just the number of games we played. The second halves didn't play out the way we wanted them to. So it was kind of a combination of all those things, but we always like to play depth.
Next up, we'll go with Tim Hall from 97.1 The Fan. Tim?
Happy birthday last week, by the way, Ryan. And I was just wondering, you talk about the tournament there, how much time you've had to reflect. When we saw you on these Zooms last season, just seemed like such a mental and emotional grind because it was obviously with the cancellations. But are you allowing yourself to get that full-on excitement with the possibilities of a full year? Fans are coming back, sports are bringing everything back right now. How do you view all that?
I'm getting there. I mean, it was like taking a punch last week when we had to shut down for a little while because we started getting more, and it was like, oh my gosh, here we go again. But we got back in here this week. We're starting to get going again. We got practice on Friday. The news about being able to have the vaccine here by the end of the month was huge. And so because of that, starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel here, starting to get some excitement going again. Our guys have been into it. I think they've had a really good 7 weeks of training. The attitudes have been excellent. And again, not like nothing's perfect. I think we have a great group, a great culture. There's still things that we need to work on. There's still mistakes that people make, but we're in a good place right now, and it's exciting moving forward in the future. Excited about our young players, excited about some of the guys who have now stepped into some upperclassmen roles playing. And to think that we could get some fans back going and run out of that tunnel with at least some fans in the stands, hopefully a full stadium would be exciting again. It just seems like for a long time, and I think our guys are yearning for that opportunity. But we'll kind of keep one day at a time and just see where it goes. We certainly have learned that you can't get too far ahead of yourself with anything going on right now.
Next up, we'll go with Spencer Holbrook from Letterman Row. Spencer.
Ryan, last spring got interrupted so quickly and abruptly that the freshmen that came in last year didn't really have a chance to do anything until the summer. How exciting is it for you to be able to get those guys in, now have them in for a full year, and then get kind of their first spring together with the program?
Yeah, and it's really like you have 2 freshman classes. You have 2 classes of guys that really haven't been through any of this before. So this is all really, really important. And it's great to just get back to work of fundamental. Like that was the thing that I think hit our entire staff as we started talking about fundamentals and techniques. And we just found ourselves on both sides of the ball going back to like just basic hand placement, pad level, how we teach, certain things on, stance and start, and just really starting at the base level. Because a lot of those things didn't happen last year through the spring with our young players. So we're really starting at day one and then building this thing as we go. And so that's really exciting. And I think our young guys really, really need that. And so this spring is an opportunity to do that. And then as we head into the preseason, we'll just continue to build on it.
Guys, we just have a few more minutes, but we'll try to do a little abbreviated lightning round to do a couple second questions. First up, we'll go with Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill?
Hey, Ryan, could you just give a quick analysis of what has stood out so far about each of the 3 quarterbacks and what you want to see from them this spring?
I don't think anything stood out yet because we just haven't been on the field yet. But like I said, I'm really looking for leadership, and the ability to kind of learn day in and day out, not make the same mistake twice. It's one thing to make a mistake. You don't just jump on a bike and start riding. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall. But how quickly can you make that, correction the next day? If you're making the same mistake for 2 or 3 days, that's not a good sign for a quarterback. That's one. 2, how quickly can you have the answers to the test? We can't, in a meeting, go through every single scenario that a quarterback would encounter. We talk to the guys all the time. What makes Drew Brees so great? What made him have a Hall of Fame career? Well, I mean, whether it is or not, I don't know. But he had a great career. Tom Brady. What made him great as a quarterback? Was it because he was really fast? Was it because he had great arms? Was it because they were just super talented? I don't think so. I think it was because of their skill that they created, but also their discipline. and their ability to have the answers to the test before they came up. There's a contingency plan in place for every single play. And as the coach, you can only go through so many and create so many of those in practice. The great ones go through and they study the film and they have the answers to the test before they happen. And I think anticipating what's going on defense as opposed to reacting is the key to quarterback play. So those are all the things we're going to be looking for. It's not all going to happen in one day, but as long as we can start to see a gradual movement towards those things, then that'll be signs that things are going well.
Next up, Austin Ward, Letterman Row. Austin?
Ryan, when you talk about getting some team and game reps, are you considering doing any of that in the Horseshoe before the spring game? And would you consider inviting all of us to get a little taste of football again in the meantime?
Yes to both. Yeah, we're definitely trying to figure out when we can get in the Horseshoe, and if we can invite anybody, we will.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Next up, Tony Girdman, Buckeye Scoop. Tony? All right, I'm going to go on.
He's on there.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks, Ryan. What absolutely has to happen for you guys this spring? Like the number one thing?
I don't know if it's just one thing, but we just have to get better fundamentally. We have to make sure we get 15 practices and start with that right there. And then we just need to get better fundamentally. We need to keep guys healthy so they get these reps and they get these body reps so that when we get done with the spring, we have X number of reps on film that guys have actually body repped that we can coach off of film over the next couple of months as we head into preseason. You know, if somebody gets hurt or somebody misses those reps or we lose a couple of days because of COVID or whatever that is, that would be detrimental. As long as we're out there, we're practicing, and we get those reps, and guys are physically doing it, I'll feel great about it.
Let's go to Dan Hope with 11 Warriors. Dan?
Hey, Ryan, obviously you guys lost a lot of leaders from last year. Just curious, in winter workouts, are there any guys that you've really seen step up and take on that leadership mantle?
I think we had a new leadership committee that was voted upon, which was great to see. Some guys, we picked 2 from each class and 2 from each position. So that was good to see some of the guys that got voted in. I think it's still yet to be seen. I mean, it's been 7 weeks of season training. Some guys have stepped up. Thayer Munford is one that kind of, I've noticed. I've noticed again, Zach Harrison. I'm probably forgetting some others, but yeah, I think as time goes on, those guys will start to, find their voice even more and step up. And some of them are guys that maybe haven't played as much. And sometimes when they start to play more, they start to feel a little bit different way about themselves and they get more confidence to be a leader. But we have some great candidates, and I'll be surprised if we don't have a real good group of them as we head, probably towards the end of spring.
Just have a few more minutes, folks. Next up, Nathan Baird with Cleveland.com. Nathan?
Yeah, Ryan, wanted to follow up on, I think it was Tony that asked early on about the injuries and things, just because these guys factor in so big for you in the secondary. But Cam Brown, how much will he be able to participate this spring? And then also Court Williams, where is he as far as coming back from the knee? And I guess more importantly, where is he as far as where you see him fitting in positionally, or is he still kind of up in the air there?
No, I mean, we have a good place, I think, for Court and what we're doing. We got a really good spot for him in terms of a safety position. He'll probably be able to do some individual towards the end of spring practice, and the same thing with Cam Brown. We'll probably get him going with some individual, towards the end of spring. But it'll kind of depend on how much they're able to handle over the next month. But they won't be in terms of contact drills anything until we get into the preseason.
Next up, we'll go with Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill?
Ryan, I'm just wondering the impact of keeping Al Washington on your staff. I know there was a kind of a public thing with Tennessee going on there. Just what did you make of how that process played out, and what do you think of being able to keep him?
Well, I'll be blunt, and I share this. I didn't really appreciate the fact that it was public and how that all went down. However, I love Al. I've always have. He and I go back a long, long ways. He's like a brother to me, and I always want Al to have great opportunities. That's why he came back here. We talked about that when he came here, is that I want Al to be a coordinator and be a head coach someday. And so he's going to always have great opportunities. And this was just one of those opportunities. And obviously glad he's here. And so are the guys on the team.
And our final question today with Coach Day will go with Clay Hall, WSYX. Clay?
Coach, your basketball ability was so evident yesterday on social media. I'm wondering, was it your handles? Was it your shot? Was it your defense that made you such a prolific player?
It was probably my ups. You know, I dunk a lot, and out in the fast break now, it was definitely shooting, and we had a couple of good big men inside, so they would draw double teams, and so that I could space out the floor, and I'd make a few shots here and there. So
did you ever consider taking that further instead of football?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I considered possibly playing both at some of the schools that I was being recruited at. I probably wouldn't have been just a scholarship basketball player, that's for sure. But I probably could have been on a couple teams, run around, make a few shots, bang into some people, start a few fights or whatever. That's kind of how it went down back then.
Are you the reigning champion then in the pickup game at the Woody?
I don't play anymore. I'm terrified of tearing Achilles, to be honest with you. But I'll bang around a little bit with the guys. We played a little 2-on-2 the other day. I was holding my breath the whole time. So I'm careful now. I'm like really worried about that at my age.
Coach, I'm sorry. I got one more guy that needs to ask a question. We'll go to Dave Biddle with 24/7 Sports. Last one. Dave?
Oh, thank you, Jerry. Ryan, I want to ask about the running back competition. That's another very intriguing battle, I would think. All 6 guys are here going to be competing during spring ball. What's your view on the running backs right now? And do you feel like you'll have a good idea of the pecking order coming out of spring?
I hope so. A lot of talent there, a lot of guys. And we're going to give them great opportunity. They're going to have opportunity this spring. But, it's exciting to see those guys compete. And I don't really know, to be honest with you, how that's all going to shake out. There's some really good players there. And, if there's some things that we look at that maybe there's 2 running backs deserve to be in the game at the same time, we'll do that. A lot of them have different skill sets. So we'll shake that out. But that's the fun part that I'm looking forward to kind of going and building as we go through the spring.
Thank you. Appreciate
it. Hey, Jerry. Do we take a question from Patrick Murphy? It's St. Patrick's Day. I mean, he has the most Irish question. Irish name of everybody here.
I think we did, but maybe we'll go with Patrick for a second round.
It's St. Patrick's Day. He's got green on. He's got the red beard going. I mean, come on.
It's only fair, Jerry. I have a second.
I think I saw Guinness in the background when he was paying attention.
This is great.
Not yet. Ryan, if there are a few guys that stood out, or how do you feel like the guys came through winter workouts? Just how do you feel about everything going into spring with what happened in winter and how guys came through?
Yeah, I mean, we decided to push spring all the way back to this Friday for a reason, and that was because Coach Mick really felt like we needed 7 full weeks of getting prepared because we lost all that time. And so I think it's been time well spent. We were obviously really nervous last week that we would have taken a step back with not being in the Woody. I think the guys did a great job with the time that they were out of the Woody of running on their own and doing some lifting on their own. And that's hard to do when you can't look guys in the eye. But we adapted good over that short period of time. And I think, we've made some great gains. And so going into the spring, this is a good group of guys. We got a pretty big roster right now. So we're going to be able to get a lot of football done, hopefully this spring. And so it's exciting. And it's a new chapter, new group of guys, a lot of young faces. So a lot of coaching to be done.
Did the young guys come through it well? I mean, first time going through that stuff?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I mean, some better than others, but that's part of how it goes.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Great. Coach, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks, Jerry.